Hello, everyone. Welcome to those who haven't been here before. Welcome back to those who have watched before. Thanks for coming again. My name is Aaliyah Langley, and we're here to discuss the 6 books I read in May 2026. Really all around solid reads this year. Of the 6 of them, 5 of them got 4 out of 5 stars from me, and one got 5 out of 5 stars, and there's one that's like one of my favorites of the year already. And yeah, let's just really dive right in. As always, follow me on Goodreads and Storygraph at Aaliyah Langley to see my highlights on books I read, my reviews earlier, all those kind of things, whatever. You could find all my stuff there, track my progress, talk about books there more as well. All that good stuff. Let's just dive right in. So the very first book I read in May of 2026, and the 17th book overall for the year, is Atmosphere. It's a love story by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, Taylor Jenkins Reid is an author I've come to really enjoy. One of my favorite books of all time, I have right back there. Every time I read a book of hers, I'm always going to mention this. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, one of my favorite books. I've read that twice. I need to read that book again, actually. But anyways, I've read a lot of her other works since reading that and things like this. So I saw this book came out last year, and I was like, oh my gosh, a new TJR book. I need to pick it up and read it. Got it, and I thought it was quite good. It's a fantastic love story, a unique premise that centered all around, we're in the 80s, 1980s, following NASA astronauts. We're primarily, not even primarily, we are following Joan and the rest of her class of the NASA space shuttle program. And in this book, like, again, we're in the 80s. I kind of had to, like, read it and kind of, like, remind myself, like, oh, yeah, we're in the 80s. And I remember I had this moment, I think I, like, made a video about this as I was reading it. Oh, yeah, we're in the 80s, so, like, early on you could tell this is like going to be like a lesbian love story, and like there's some discussions around like women in the workforce at all. I'm like, okay, I gotta go 20 years back. Like, this is the 80s. People had different feelings then. Then I was like, wait, the 80s is 40 years back, and we're like even 45 years back because we're like in 1980. Anyway, I was kind of like, oh, but obviously we're in that time period, and I think TJR does a good job of like really kind of like getting you into that space and time, and to kind of have you fully immerse yourself in the story and like in these characters and this whole kind of thing. I think it's a solid read. I gave it a 4 out of 5. And whatever she writes next, I'm going to continue to read. I've read, I think, most of her works, if not all of her works at this point. And she's the author who I consistently kind of go to and like for novels. Nice little relaxing kind of take your mind away type things. Especially reading this off the book I read last in April was a nice kind of like more relaxing good vibe. So definitely read that one if you have that Atmosphere, Taylor Jenkins Reid. All right, book 18 for the year, second book in May, is A Sky Full of Elephants, another novel. This one is by Sibo Campbell. Now, this is one my mom has been like slowly reading over the past several months, and she's continually talked to me and my sister about it, and saying like, you guys need to read this, you guys need to read this. And I finally was like, okay, like I had to wait for it from the library, and I finally got it, and I finally was like, okay, like let me commit and like read this. And this story is it's such a strong book, and has a fascinating, complex, and transcendent premise that is going to, and already has, made a lot of people uncomfortable. But I think those who push through any discomfort that they may feel will get a lot from this read. This story follows Charlie and his daughter Sydney through a completely altered post-event America, forcing you to look at race, trauma, and community through a totally new lens. It's part dystopian, sci-fi, part deeply like with family drama, like very personal in that kind of way, and like ask a lot of questions about identity that linger like for a while as you're reading. This like I said, the whole premise of this book is really quite interesting. Like, we're kind of in a place where basically, let me just read how it says in the thing here. It says, one day a cataclysmic event occurs. All the white people in America walk into the nearest body of water. A year later, Charlie Burton is a black man living in an entirely new world, having served his time in prison for a wrongful conviction. He's now a professor of electric and solar power systems at Howard University when he receives a call from someone he wasn't sure even existed, his daughter Sydney, a 19-year-old left behind by her white mother and step family. Traumatized by the event and terrified of the outside world, Sydney has spent a year in isolation in Wisconsin. Desperate for help, she turns to the father she never met, a man she has always resented. Sydney and Charlie meet for the first time as they embark on a journey across a truly post-racial America in search for answers, but neither of them are prepared for this new world and how they see themselves in it. So already right there, you're like, oh my gosh, like, this, what are you talking about? All the white people basically just, like, walk into a body of water and kill themselves. And really also early in the book, like, there's this, I think it's like chapter 2 or 3, where Sydney, who is biracial, and living in this white family. Laying out the scene of basically all of a sudden her family kind of like get like this, something happens to them and they suddenly just like start walking, and she's like trying to like fight them to not go, but they're like clearly so consumed by going and like whatever's taking over them. It's kind of like, I remember I was reading, I obviously read it and it's kind of like drawing, you know what the story's about, but I remember like I was almost done with the book, even though I was like at least like a third of the way, like I had like 2/3, like I had a third left. I remember I went back because I was thinking again about like how scary and like weird that was, but like you can just kind of see it kind of leaping off the page. I feel like Campbell did a really great job of that, and kind of again, it makes you ask a lot of questions about it. It makes some people uncomfortable, but I think it's good if it makes you uncomfortable, and I think you should kind of push through and keep reading it. And like there's so many great discussions in this book through these characters, through other characters we meet in the story. Just a really great book, and I can see why my mother was talking about it for quite some time. Another one I gave 4 out of 5. Really great one. All right, book 19 for the year and third book for May is The Greatest Sentence Ever Written, by Walter Isaacson. Now, Walter Isaacson is the author. I think he's a great writer. A book of his that I've read is the biography on Steve Jobs. Great biography. If you haven't read that one, excellent. He's written a couple other biographies and other works. And I remember I saw this book had come out, and I was kind of like not interested in it really. And I'll talk about that in a second. But then I was in Politics and Prose the other day for a book event, actually, on the next book I'm going to talk about. And I saw this book, and I picked it up, and I saw how small it was. And I said, oh, this is the book I could like finish like in an hour or two, and very, very much did. So I said, okay, let me just read it and examine. Again, I think he's a great writer. Let me just like read and see like how he breaks down what he calls the greatest sentence ever written, which is the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence. Now, the Declaration of Independence means many different things to many different people. For me, an African American woman, I know that the whole Declaration of Independence, let alone the second sentence, was not for me on two fronts, African American and woman. So part of me was interested to see how Isaacson would address this like glaring gap among the writers who themselves were slaveholders, if at all. He does address it, and he calls out the irony of those words, but unsurprisingly, he doesn't spend much time on it, which I wouldn't expect. Like I said, unsurprisingly, I wouldn't expect him to, because it's not what the book is about, and like let alone in this under 100-page read. So I think Isaacson in this book did exactly what he set out to do. I give it 4 out of 5. He analyzed the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence, and the book explores the sentence's origins, its philosophical depth, and its relevance as a unifying creed in the United States, especially as we're headed upon the 250th anniversary of the United States. I realize I never said what the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence is. I think many people, when they think about the Declaration of Independence, they think about this sentence, but let me just read it so we know what he's, analyzing here. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So that was the greatest sentence ever written by Walter Isaacson's terms. Next up is the 20th book of the year and fourth book for May and this is the one I actually have with me, is Now Then by Morgan Radford, a novel. Here it is in all its glory. Fabulous. This is a book I have known has been coming for a while. Candidly, Morgan Radford is someone is a family friend. So I've known about this book coming for a while, and pre-ordered it a while ago. Read it basically as soon as I was able to. And I gave this a 4 out of 5. Now, historical fiction is one of my favorite genres, and I always love, as well as historical fiction, a story that has multiple narrators. And Now Then gives us exactly that. The Now is narrated by Lily, who we meet on her first day at Harvard. Throughout the years, we follow her. She traces part of her mother's history, a history her mother's only recently begun to share with her, like through a letter. Like she opens up this letter this first day and goes to this whole kind of, we start from there really. And the then takes us back to 1957, with Mirzel, Lily's mother, in Havana, Cuba, as she lives through these very events that will lead Lily there to her search all these years later. Now Then is very captivating. It's full of suspense, romance, surprises, and I do not really like to give spoilers. I might here, I don't know. I might just talk about it a little bit here, but I don't like to give spoilers really, but my eyebrows were raised at the end, and it led to lots of discussion. My mother had read the book just finished it just before I did. So I remember I called her that evening when I finished it to talk about it, because let me just talk about the book now. I read the book, but I'm going to talk about the ending quickly. This book, no, I won't talk about the ending. I don't think I will. I think I won't. But the point is, no, my eyebrows were raised and I was chatting a lot. This book, Morgan, she takes a lot of, she went to Harvard. She is she's a multiracial person. Her mother has, roots in Cuba. All these kind of things. She used a lot of these aspects of her personal life into this book. Like in the book, Lily is dating a British Indian man named Vikram. Morgan had someone like that she dated in college, and never was able to progress, and maybe using some of those things in the story. There's lots of things in there that she was able to pull in from her personal life, but kind of like, twist them in different ways to make this book. And again, I kind of like being able to go back and forth between time periods and different narrators, and like looking at this period in Cuban history. And yeah, all around, I think it was, like I said, it's very suspenseful, kind of a lot of good surprises in there, some romance, all these kind of things like mixing and coming together in this good book. And yeah, the ending, like I said, my eyebrows were up. Because I was kind of like, okay. But I won't go fully into spoilers here, because the book is quite new. But yeah, that's Now Then by Morgan Radford. Next up here, we have book 21 for the year, and the fifth book for May this is the one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. It's called There Is No Place for Us, Working and Homeless in America by Brian Goldstone. This book I had on my shelf. I think I had it like on my library holds for a bit, and then the Pulitzer nominations or the Pulitzer winners just were announced. And I was like, oh yeah, this book it won a Pulitzer. I mean, this book is on my list. And I was like, is it ready yet? And I saw it, like, actually it was about to be ready for me, essentially, at the library. So I seasoned it right away. I said, oh yeah, this is the book that I've been, I've had on my list to read this year. I just hadn't gotten to it yet. And then when the Pulitzer reminded me, of course it did, that I needed to read it. And it's fantastic. It's one of those where quite early on I was kind of like, yeah, this is a book that everyone needs to read, certainly, and it's a book that I think many people could learn a lot from. And early on as well, it reminded me immediately of some books I've read the past couple of years that I think are so vital, and other ones that I would really recommend people, like Evicted, Poverty by America, Nickel and Dimed, Made, Homelessness is a Housing Problem. I can name probably a couple others that were really kind of like leaping off the page for me. In this book, Goldstone follows 5 individuals and families in Atlanta, Georgia, who are cycling in and out of homelessness. Goldstone shatters the stereotypes that people have about homeless people don't do anything. These are all people who are working very hard but are still homeless, and I feel like he weaves their personal stories with the deep history that drives how we got to this place, both locally in Atlanta but also on the federal level, going back to show when the Olympics came and how they decided we're going to get rid of some of these apartments, we want to build these nice places. What Reagan was doing in the 80s with his federal stuff, and other people so many different layers of kind of saying, oh yeah, this people have vouchers, but the vouchers don't like to be taken, and this led to this whole kind of deep history with it as well, which was within the narrative, which I think was really, really great to give you another big stamp on it. And I think crucially, Goldstone demonstrates that our current definition of homelessness is completely inadequate and needs a drastic update to reflect the true scale of the crisis. This is something that I think I talked about a little bit when I read This is a Housing Problem last year. That also was something that talked about how we're not really defining homelessness correctly. Every year, HUD, the Home and Urban Development, Housing and Urban Development Department, I believe, they do a homelessness survey, and they go out to look for people and count the numbers. But the only way they count is people who are sleeping on the street. They do not count people who are sleeping in the shelters that night. They don't count people who are staying on their sister's couch for a night or two or a month or longer, as some of these people were doing. They don't count all these people who are basically within under the definition. And I think a lot of ways it's purposeful, because it can make it seem like, oh, we're eradicating homelessness, we're doing good on homelessness. But no, homelessness is actually a much bigger problem than people like to really acknowledge it is. And Goldstone gives a lot of good stats in here. I really recommend, if you look on my Goodreads profile, I had this on Kindle, so you were able to see, I was highlighting a bunch of stats he was laying out things like this that are homelessness is a massive problem, and especially these people who are working so hard, so diligently, and are still constantly kind of like under it and getting like shot down. It's a horrible. And for a country as wealthy as the United States, it's something I always kind of have these thoughts about it. And I thought a little bit too about Abundance by Klein and Thompson that I read last year as well. For a country as wealthy as the United States, there are so many ways that we could truly eradicate homelessness. And Goldstone gives us some of these solutions at the end of in the end of the book, gives some ideas. But there's been so many things that have been talked about to basically like put an end to this like once and for all, truly, or at least in a really substantial way, not kind of like these kind of band-aid solutions that I feel like we have right now. And I feel like this book is like, again, 5 out of 5, a strong, solid 5 out of 5, and it's one I think is so urgent. It's a devastating read, but I think it's like truly going to be an illuminating read for many people who kind of sometimes forget about these things and maybe have the luxury of not having to think about these things. I found this while reading this book. I had similar feelings while reading other books that I mentioned earlier. When I would read this book and like turn over at night, like I would, finish reading for the night or something like that, and I just look around at my surroundings and be like, how blessed am I to be able to have somewhere to stay? I don't have to be worried about. I've never been housing insecure, never been food insecure, never been all these kind of like insecurities that you see these people living through in this book. And again, like this, how wealthy is this country to basically have something like this on such a scale that, again, is kind of purposefully underreported and touted so that people can say, oh, we're eradicating homelessness, we're eradicating this, that, and whatever. And these cycles that keep people in to, you make a little bit more than you're supposed to, now you're going to lose this benefit or that benefit. And I finally got the voucher, but I only have 2 months to find the voucher, to like use the voucher, and no one wants to take my voucher. And like these kind of horrible cycles that you see these people go through, and you just immediately kind of like, I can identify yourself with these people and feel for these people in these stories. And again, so using those narrations, but then also adding in the deep historical facts, saying Atlanta did this then, and the federal level did this then, and this, that, and the third, to show how like the real life consequences of these people, kind of like being at the, being on the tail end of like gentrification and all these kind of things, these kind of band-aid solutions to kind of help people out, and these purposeful solutions as well for corporations just to basically just continue to make more and more money and just constantly screw people. And it's a fantastic read. Like I said, I think it's must read for everybody. People really need to pick this book up. I'm so happy that it won the Pulitzer, because like for me, it was on my list to read already, but it reminded me like, oh yeah, I need to pick up this book and read it. I think this is a really, really great work. And I cannot recommend this book enough. It's already one of my favorites of the entire year. I think it's such an important read. And I urge you to read it and share it with others. All right, my final book for May 2026, my 6th book of May, my 22nd overall, is The Color of Water, a black man's tribute to his white mother by James McBride. I have a quote here from the book that I liked. It says, "God is the color of water. Water doesn't have a color." In The Color of Water, James McBride, weaves a dual narrative memoir that explores complex questions of race, identity, and family. And we're through 2 narrators, kind of 2 voices here. We learn the story of his mother, Ruth, who was a Polish Jewish immigrant who braved estrangement from her family to marry a black man, a black minister, alongside, and she had 12 children. 1, 2, 12. And alongside James's own perspective as a mixed race child growing up in poverty, who had questions about his race and identity and like how he fit into the world. This story has like a lot of depth to it, and it's ultimately a testament to like resilience and love and finding your place in the world, as James was kind of struggling with as when he was growing up and living amongst all these siblings, and am I black, am I white, am I Jewish, what's going on, like there's a very deep narrative here and deep story. I give this a 4 out of 5. I think it's quite I think it's quite touching, quite an interesting look back. His mother was someone who didn't really talk a lot about her history, and kind of just wanted to, or her race even at all. She kind of like really didn't want to say much about it ever. So he had these questions. I'm sure his siblings had these questions as well, but he was kind of just like kind of retracing his steps through his life as he was trying to basically question these things. And he was able to learn some things about his mother. He was able to open up to him when he was like, as a man and older, and be able to kind of piece together his story a little bit and hers together. Yeah, I think it's a nice little read. This is something that I had seen a couple months ago about like it being this really great book. It came out several years ago at this point. Yeah, like it was first published my year of birth, 1996. So it's been out for quite some time. But I remember I said a couple months ago it was like some, really great book to read, something like that. And I was like, oh, let me read it. And I was going to read it, and I did, and I picked it up and I decided to. I was like, oh, I finished it today, actually. I finished it like a couple hours ago. And yeah, that's The Color of Water. I'm sure I'll be able to think more about it maybe the rest of the day goes on, or I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm going to read anything else today. But yeah, that's The Color of Water. That's the last book for May. So yeah, those are my 6 books. Quite, like I said, pretty good books, honestly. Like all quite good ratings. Usually, I'm not being forced to read anything here, so usually I'm the one I'm picking the books. So it's rare that I read something poor. Because I'm the one choosing. So I wouldn't pick a book that probably was like seeming really horrible. We had some where maybe people liked it a lot and I haven't really liked it, but you know what I'm saying here. I'm saying like it's rare you're gonna see me read a book where I give it like a 2 out of 5, because it's like, why would I pick a book that's gonna be a 2 out of 5? Like I want to use my time well. Anyway, those are the 6 books, pretty solid reads. We are coming into June here in a moment. June, the best month of the year. My birth month is June. I don't know how my reading's going to go in June, because there's a lot of things happening in June. So right now it's May 31st. Like I said, my birthday is at the end of June. Tomorrow, June 1st, Love Island starts. And I watch Love Island a lot. Love Island USA starts on June 2nd. So I'm going to have both Love Island and Love Island USA on at the same time from Tuesday onwards for like at least 6 weeks. Love Island USA goes like 6 weeks. Love Island goes, which is in the UK, goes like 8 weeks. So that's like at least 3 hours of my day, like just alone there. Again, my birthday is in that month, and we also have the greatest sporting event in the world. The World Cup starts in like 2 weeks. So there's going to be a lot going on in the world, but also in Aaliyah Langley's world. So I'm going to see how my reading is going to go. I had this book back here, Project Hail Mary, that I bought like right after I saw the movie. When did I see the movie? In March, maybe? And I've been supposed to read it, but I keep pushing it off. I think I'm going to try to tackle this month. And I also have another book or 2 that I just got from the library, or when I got from the library already, that I want to maybe tackle. So I don't know what's going to look like next month. Don't be surprised if I don't have that many books. I probably will not have as many books as I had this month in June. I just know that for sure, because there's just a lot going on. But in all that, follow me on Goodreads and Storygraph to see those books that I get up to before I can come back. After all this is said and done, to see what I've read so far, or what I read in June. You can check on that early if you follow me on Goodreads and Storygraph. Good stuff there. I like Storygraph. All the kind of like breakdowns are nice. A friend had it a couple years ago and showed me, and I was like, oh, this looks nice. But I finally actually did it and got it for myself. So Storygraph has been good thus far. So follow me there. Follow me on Goodreads. Follow me on all the socials, all the things. But yeah, send me recommendations for books in the comments. Even though I'm going to be busy in the month of June, I still would like to see what you're reading, what you think I should read, all the things. If you have any thoughts about any of these books that I've talked about today, you know how it goes down there. If you're new here, follow along with what I kind of said. Just send me stuff, recommendations, whatever it is, thoughts, yada yada. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Bye bye.